And I'll start the meeting by reading the usual protocol. So bear with me if you will. All visitors must sign into the visitor book at Kilncraig's reception. This includes council staff from all other buildings. There is no planned fire evacuation drill or alarm test today, and if the fire alarm is activated during your visit, you must exit the building immediately. The council officers will direct you to the nearest fire exit and will escort visitors to the building fire assembly point beside the Silver Man at the top of Parliament Walk. Kilncraig staff should report to their floor's assembly point. You should remain at your assembly point until directed to reoccupy the building and only re-enter once the fire marshal has advised it is safe to do so. Please do not attempt to leave the site by vehicle until cleared to do so by the fire marshal to ensure access routes are kept clear for emergency vehicles. Please note that this is a public meeting and that members of the public may be in attendance. Meetings will be recorded by the clerk, published online for public viewing. Taking of photographs, including screenshots, audio or video recordings, are not permitted during meetings unless with the express permission of the chair. Can members attending virtually activate their cameras where possible to enable you to join by video? And can all attendees mute their microphones when not speaking? Please do not come in during items unless I invite you to do so. If members attending virtually wish to speak on any point, please indicate by clicking on the raise your hand button. Members in the chamber should also raise their hand, and I will bring you in at an appropriate time. If members have not been able to access all papers for the meeting, please indicate now. No such indications. Today we will hear each of the items set out in the agenda, and I will invite the officer to present the paper, and members will then have the opportunity to ask questions before we proceed to debate and decision. I'll now ask the clerk to take the roll call, but I think we've kind of done what they do it.
We've just received apologies from Councillor Keogh. Everyone else is in attendance apart from Councillor Quinn.
Thank you, clerk. Right, well, we'll see if Brian George is later. Fine. Item 1 on the agenda is apology. We just had that. Right. And secondly, declaration of interest. Any declarations of interest? No, nothing aligned. Fine. Item 3 to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on 30th of October. I will go from that page by page. And if you have any amendments or errors or corrections, please, commissioners, signal to me at that point. Okay, page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Right, there being no amendments, do we follow the documents and they're adopted by this process? Yep, that's them adopted, is it? Good, right. Item 4 on the agenda is the Council General Fund Capital Spend 25-26, and this will be given to us by the Chief Financial Officer, Lindsay Sims.
Thank you. Good morning. This paper provides an update on the Council's approved capital programme for the year ending 31st March 2026, based on actual spend for the first half of the year to September. The General Fund Capital Programme is forecasting an underspend of 5.882 million across various projects, which is a slight increase of 691,000 on the Q1 outturn. A summary of the forecast per asset plan is provided in section 4.3 of the report, and detail by project is provided in Appendix 1. The Q2 outturn on General Fund revenue is not yet available and will be presented to the next committee. So I'm happy to take any questions on the paper supported by colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Any questions? Councillor Force.
Thanks. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this one, Lindsay. The Place-Based Investment Fund is showing a small potential underspend against the 24-25. I'm just wondering what project that is for, and does that impact on the grant? Because I understood when we were allocating them, projects had to give assurances that funding would be spent in that year, and it was a kind of condition of the grant.
Thank you. So that is one of the areas that I picked up myself and was querying, but I didn't actually have an answer for this committee. So it's one that we are looking into, and we'll confirm that at the next outturn.
Is it possible to get a response then when you get the response? Someone can confirm that.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Rennie, I think. Councillor Rennie, do you come in?
Thanks, Chair. It was just on the community investment strategy, the city deal funding to be realigned. And I just wondered when funding's being aligned through the city region deal, if approval's required for that from that committee, and if it has been acquired in this case.
In terms of the city region deal, the grants, it does go through the joint committee and the financial profile. So I would expect, I can't confirm at this point in time, but I would expect that is the process. Don't know if Kevin would be able to help me out on this.
Thank you, Councillor Rennie. Apologies for the delay, just catching up with the question there. In terms of the City Region deal, we report quarterly now in terms of to our PMO, in terms of our projected spend. That tends to be linked to either delays in the programming, so therefore we haven't achieved the spend. There is reports regularly to Joint Committee, who obviously see the programme that is in play, and these are reported also to governments at the same time. So the quarterly report to our PMO is then shared with Scottish and UK government in terms of projected spend in that sense. With I believe that there's a reports issued to joint committee in terms of the projected spend for the city region deals. Therefore, the governance is also picked up at joint committee, but reporting is through Treasury in terms of anticipated spend, and we get the annual grant acceptance award each year as well from government. I think that is also shared at joint committee as well. I'm hoping that's answering your question.
Yeah, but see, in terms of, so we've said obviously there's two aspects. We've not spent a grant, so there'll be delayed spend, but also on that aspect of realignment, I would imagine, just from sitting on the city region deal, everything needs to be approved. And I'm just, although these things are reported, I'm just wanting to clarify that it was approved, obviously because it's in our report, just to. I mean, I know obviously it's been reported to different committees, but I know a lot of the city region deal spend needs to be approved by the full committee for certain amounts, and I just wondered if that had, if it was definitely confirmed that that had been approved.
For you, Chair. Councillor Rennie, in terms of the realignment, it's a realignment of spend, not a realignment to other projects. If it was getting rediverted to another project, that would have to be approved by joint committee, and it would need to be part of the OBC and FBCs and that come forward as part of the projects that is approved by joint committee. So, yeah, that does all come through joint committee for approval. The realignment isn't to other projects; it's just in terms of the cash flow spend for the attributed to the project. So it's just the timing for when the money's going to be drawn down. I'm hoping that.
Oh yeah, thanks. Thanks very much. That clarifies it. Thank you.
Kevin, I'd hang on a minute if I were you. Any other questions at the moment? But I've got one for you on the free school meals equipment. This is a project that seems to be rolling on and going nowhere. What actually can we expect to come forward on this?
So the free schools equipment, the money is there, being held for the expansion of free schools meals. That is still waiting on finer details being approved by Scottish Government in terms of that expansion. So we have money set aside for the equipment to support that. But until the expansion of free school meals programmes come forward, then we need to understand that further. Basically, that's what it is.
Okay, thanks. So, right. Yes, a question on the Paul Mays situation. It says no capital works are being undertaken by Stirling Council. Are we, I think I asked this question the other day, but I'll get the answer from yourself as well. Are we tied to a proportion of the spend by Stirling, or are we tied to a fixed capital spend?
It's a proportional cost associated with Paul Mays that we pay. There is discussion and negotiation in terms of it's not just automatically they do the works and we just pick up part of the tab. It is that we work with them, but we have a percentage that we are responsible for because one of the major users of that site as well as part of the agreement we have in place. So we share operating costs as well as any capital costs.
So the budget at the moment is 77,000. If that were to go up because of the proportional effect, would you have to come back to this chamber for approval to change that?
We would come back in terms of a request as part of the capital budget process, the capital operations group, and that would go through the normal process for approval via a number of Lindsay's reports.
Begs the question, what would happen if it wasn't approved?
We would need to state that out to members so that they're aware in terms of our obligations linked to the agreement that we have with them, so that members were fully aware of the impact of what that would be when they took that decision.
And that impact would what?
It could be that it puts the partnership arrangement and deal in jeopardy, but also what it would mean is for officers to go back and see if there's an alternative way that we can take forward the project. It's not that the money's spent and then we get hit with a bill, it's we agree the works in advance.
Excellent, thank you. I think that's all I have. Anyone else with any questions? That's fine. Right. Well, I will follow my proposed paper. And I wish to second it. Councillor Rennie, thank you very much. Anyone wish to debate the paper? Everyone will debate. Are we invited to approve? We are. Thank you very much. Next item, item 5. This is the HRA financial performance 35-26. Once again, that was given to us by section 105 also.
Thank you. This paper provides an update on the financial performance for the housing revenue account for the year ending 31st of March 26, based on actual spend for the first half of the year to September. The revenue spend is forecasting a surplus of 5.825 million, which is 1.169 million greater than budgeted, and an increase of 780,000 from the first quarter. The main driver of this underspend and movement continues to be within staffing costs due to vacancies. Details of the over and underspends by subjective area are provided in Appendix 1. The capital programme is forecasting an underspend of 2.998 million across various projects and is proposed to be carried forward. Almost half of the underspend is attributed to the Lockheys Road new build development project that is now expected to commence in early 26-27. The report provides a summary of the main projects contributing to the underspend and detail by project provided in Appendix 2. And again, happy to answer any questions assisted by colleagues.
Councillor Forst.
Thanks again, Lindsay. This might not be for you. The underspend in related to kind of vacancies and employee related expenditure. I'm just wondering what the impact that is having on the kind of services that we're providing to tenants, and if there's any particular areas that we're feeling the pressure on.
Thanks, Councillor Forson. Yeah, it has had an impact, as you would expect, and as you've highlighted. The service is prioritising and is continuing to fulfil obligations with regards to repairs and the trades resourcing that. We're feeling it in the void property refurbishment area of things. So that's where we've seen some decline in terms of the numbers of voids that we're carrying at the moment and the time it's taking us to turn those around. But in terms of the non-emergency repairs, those are still being fulfilled as the and the emergency repairs as well. But it's the void area that we're having experiencing impact.
I mean, the stats that we saw recently, and I think were at the recent kind of performance meeting, were showing that we were particularly good, you know, kind of compared to the rest of Scotland. Are we going to see those standards kind of fall as a result of that? And what is it that we're doing to, I suppose, ramp up the efforts to make sure that we can recruit into these posts?
Thanks, Councillor Thorson. Yeah, I mean, there is potential for drop-off in performance, clearly, with the drop-off in the resource available. To try and mitigate against that, what we're doing is we're bringing in external contractor resource at the moment to support the trades functions, where it's appropriate to do so and where we're able to do so. But alongside that, we're moving forward with the recruitment activity that is required to bring in the resources to bolster the trades teams. And we expect that by the time we get to Q4, that a good chunk of that recruitment will have been taken forward, and we'll start to see increase in the resource internally.
Mr. Fairley?
Thanks, Chair. It's on the same issue, and Ellen's picked up a couple of things I was going to ask, but it is about you seem fairly optimistic about in the final quarter we're going to manage to fill those gaps. Why haven't we been able to fill them up to now? Where's the confidence coming from that allows us to be confident about the final quarter? What kind of numbers are we talking about?
Thanks, Councillor Fairley. Yeah, we are optimistic about filling posts. I mean, it's a bit, there's a few different factors involved. Clearly, there's challenge in attracting candidates to come to work in the public sector when what we're talking about here is trades resources, so electricians, plumbers, joiners, etc. So as you know, there is potential that you can make more money in the private sector in those roles, and it's always a challenge to try and attract suitable candidates to come and work in public sector. We're not alone in that. That's something obviously across Scotland. There's similar challenges, so there's that element to it. There's also obviously the time that it takes to work through the process. There's limited resource capacity at the moment in the managerial side of things to obviously drive forward the required recruitment and make sure that they're going through the process on that. So that takes a bit of time to work through that process. And yeah, I mean, as positive as we are about being able to fulfil or fill posts, there is, as Councillor Thorson highlighted, potential for drop-off in performance, and that's why we're looking at alternative delivery models at the moment to try and help the existing resource that is there, so that performance doesn't suffer.
I think an extension to that would be is to pick up on the confidence point. I mean, you're talking about things that are being looked at. I mean, it's about confidence. Where is the confidence coming from that these will actually provide solutions? Either in terms of being able to get people on board, or you invent new processes which will be slicker and less man-hour consuming. Why are you confident about that?
Thanks, Councillor Coy. Yeah, I mean, again, it's and historically, obviously, we go through peaks and troughs, having near maximum capacity in the resource, and then tails off. We have a number of vacancies where we've always been able, historically, to fill those positions. It can be a matter of sometimes just timing when you go out to recruit. There are no suitable candidates when you initially go. You turn back to the market. Things have moved on, things have changed. You do have suitable applications. So the confidence is based on what we've seen historically with peaks and troughs, and just working our way through the process. And clearly, we want to make sure that when we're advertising roles as well, we make the posts as attractive as possible with potential candidates that may be interested in joining the council.
Okay, thanks. Just probably along the same general topic, quite a lot of underspend noted here. Is that entirely down to resources? I mean, because the worry here is if you have underspends every year, then your capital programme is stretching to infinity.
The underspends in the capital programme are largely unaffected, Councillor Coyne, by the internal resource being less. Most of the capital programme is undertaken by external contractors. So there's a number of underspends which are being attributed to some delay in having put in place appropriate procurement in time for us to have commenced with that work as early as we would have liked to have done. So some of the underspends are due to a delay in actually starting those works. There are some underspends which are attributed to contractor resource capacity, and we've been working hard with the contractors to try and bring in additional resource capacity from their side of things. Again, with a view to make sure that we kick on with the capital programme delivery and that we minimise these underspends that are forecast as at 30th September. By the time we get to the final quarter, that we've reduced those underspends through increasing the capacity with the external contractors.
Thanks, Andy. I also see the word procurement coming up quite a lot in these things about how it's an obstruction or a difficulty or a delay. Is there a good reason for that? Is this a problem we are solving or something we're just having to deal with?
Yeah, I think in this particular case with the capital programme, there had amassed a bit of backlog in terms of the procurement that was required to be taken forward from the service. And there is a focused resource worker on that now within the service who's taken this forward, and it's just taking a bit of time to get those moved along.
Good. Okay, thanks. Councillor Rennie.
Thanks, Chair. Just on obviously it's been an ongoing issue with the voids year on year, where each year we've seen an issue with being able to deal with that, and obviously that then impacts on rent coming into the council, homelessness, all those aspects. I just wondered in the longer term, and I know we've discussed this before, whether it's worthwhile gaining capacity through recruitment of apprentices into all these key roles. And I know that's something we have discussed at this committee quite a few times, so that we can deal with that within the council rather than have to look to external bodies and procurement, that we're gaining the capacity. Now, I realise that within that there may be an issue where you know, you need capacity really to train apprentices, but I was just wondering if there were plans to bring in additional apprentices in these areas.
Thanks, Councillor Rennie. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. We need to be working to produce, to bring in apprentices and to produce our own homegrown talent, if you like. So yeah, we at one point in time, 3 or 4 years back, we did have around 10% of the trades workforce was made up of apprentices. That number has dropped slightly. So we have a number at the moment of electrical apprentices and a smaller number of other trades and apprentices. But yeah, I think we need to be looking to increase that number. We are looking to increase that number. It's something that we built in to the budget moving forward. Clearly, we've got a paper coming to January Council for an HRA budget moving forward into the new financial year, and that takes account of an allowance for within the establishment for apprentice positions.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay. Any more questions for anyone else? No, fine. In that case, once again, I'll formally propose the paper. Thank you for a second. Councillor Thorson, thank you. Right. Does anyone wish to debate the paper? If not, are we minded to approve? We are. Thank you. Fine. Item 6, amended the corporate risk register. This will be given by Senior Manager, Partnership Transformation. Jerry. 3.
Morning, councillors. This report presents the Q2 Corporate Risk Register update for 25-26. Since the last update reported to committee in August, a number of changes have been made to the register following the embedded review process with services. 3 risks have increased in score: major governance failure, the school estate condition disrupting education provision, and failure to comply with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, or UNCRC. 1 new risk has been added to the register, which is harm to staff through violence and aggression, and 1 risk has been removed, which is the increased ability to meet social care demand, as this risk is included on the IJB risk register, and the actions and controls to address this risk sit with the IJB. As requested previously by the committee, we've included the date each risk was last moved in score, either to increase or decrease the risk score for transparency. I'm joined by service colleagues this morning to help answer any questions we have.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Fairley.
Thanks, Chair. Sherry, so the new one, that harms the staff through violence and aggression, what has led to that being added to the risk register? What's prompted that? And in terms of what's sitting a very high score, what and where are those threats coming from to the staff?
So this risk reflects violence and aggression, which is both physical and verbal, or a combination of two. So just to be clear, it reflects both those kind of forms of violence and aggression. Since 2023, we have seen a trend of increasing recorded incidents. These could be partly attributable to improved reporting. So we have encouraged and implemented processes to improve reporting, including through the implementation of our new health and safety system, Audit. But we have seen a trend since 2023 of an increased reporting in both verbal and physical forms of aggression towards staff. Given the extent of the number of incidents and the number of the employees that are affected by those incidents, it's been included on the register for today, or on the risk register. Predominantly, the largest number of incidents happen within the education or schools settings, as you may expect. However, not exclusively, there are cases of violence and aggression reported from all service areas. Just on what the trend looks like, and education colleagues may wish to provide a bit more context on that, the data is looking at the moment like that trend is decreasing from schools, but overall is increasing. So compared with last year's stats, the trend looks to be decreasing.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Shireen. So, Colin, if they are decreasing, is that correct, first of all? And if it is, do you have a reason for the decrease? Is there a strategy been adopted that's changed, or what's the reason for the decrease?
Okay, so an increase coming out of COVID, and you can imagine some of the wee ones that have been at home for a long time and not been used to that sort of social interaction, and a real spike coming out of COVID. If I look at August this year to October this year and track the exact same time for the year before, we've seen quite a decrease. And that's where I took that sort of idea of we've seen a reduction. So we've seen a 42% reduction in children hitting out at each other or violence and aggression against each other. We've seen a 13% reduction just over for wee ones doing that to adults that they're getting supported by. I say wee ones because our trend pattern is very much P1, P2 and specialist provisions where that's high. Just to put a bit of context into that. And what strategies we're doing is very much holistic supports for the whole family, getting to understand what the needs are at home, getting to understand what best needs that child needs, and adapting the changes for that child. It sometimes doesn't just kick in straight away, and some of these relationships and some of the strategies do take time to get children settled. Some of the changes have been changes to the learning environment, and they'll be maybe in their school, but in smaller group settings and in rooms that are maybe more nurturing. So that is a common thread that we're seeing make a difference. We work with our trade union colleagues in HR really closely to track where this happens in health and safety. And then we dig deeper as a centre, supporting the school and the family to just track, is it making a difference? And that detailed tracking per school is really helping that see that it's not just a reduction in number, but actually meet the need of the child. So that, I suppose that's our strategy of being really trauma informed and supporting and nurturing. Okay. Councillor Reynolds, sorry.
Just a follow-up on that point. I had actually recently had a tour of Clackmannan Primary and saw that the rooms there were absolutely fantastic for children in terms of that kind of sensory environment and that ability for children to regulate within those spaces. And I just wondered if that's going to be available. I mean, I know you'd mentioned there was more work on that. Is something similar available in every school across the area?
So what we've seen is these flexible learning spaces for children increase coming out of COVID. So we've now got, I think it's 8 in our schools. We've also got 18 schools.
some schools physically don't have enough space to provide that, and also resourcing sometimes an issue. But what I would say is where a learner does need that resource and does respond better to that, we would be committed to absolutely looking at that. Where they are meeting the need is in an individual school, like you're seeing in Clackmannan. But I suppose moving forward, just making schools don't have that resource, can they access that similar style of sport if it's really needed? And there's not a blanket approach for that, but it is per child and meeting that need. What's interesting to see is this week Scottish Government published figures round about teacher numbers and various things. We saw an increase in teacher numbers for ASN in Clackmannanshire, and that's a good thing because obviously that follows the need, and I think we do meet that need as best as we can.
Yes, thank you very much.
Shireen, this is really for you. I kind of see this as three problems rolled into one. I mean, we've heard about pupils on staff. There's also staff on staff. And then there's public on staff. These are three quite distinct problem areas as far as I'm thinking about this. And it would be interesting to see how those trended separately, because if we lump them all together, we don't get an accurate picture on any one of them. And I think it would be quite useful going forward to have some analysis of it on those three threads, if that were possible.
I think we would be happy to provide some detail on that. I do have some information, but I think that would be maybe easier to convey if it was in written form. But yeah, we are able to break down to some extent, you know, the forms of violence and aggression that you've spoken about in terms of, you know, written, verbal, physical.
Just as an overview, is there a significant public to staff problem? Is most of the stuff, the activity in schools, or is it this workplace, or is it public?
I'm going to ask my colleague in health and safety to come and help me with this question.
Morning, Chair. That's the information we have at the moment, but it's certainly something that we could look into. I think what's worthwhile mentioning is the training approach that's also been taken with regards to violence and aggression. So within the past year, the health and safety team have partnered with NHS Forth Valley to roll out an in-house violence and aggression training course for staff. Now, the positive thing about that is rather than relying on an external provider and having a kind of a fixed course objective that goes alongside that, we now have in-house capacity to deliver that training to whatever service requires it and to meet the context in which they are addressing those challenges. So it allows us to take a much more tailored approach when addressing these issues, which should, we would hope, try and address some of those nuances that you're saying, if it's staff against staff or staff and members of the public or otherwise. So there is approaches in place to deal with that. In terms of the statistics themselves, happy to have a look at that as long as we can ensure the anonymity of staff that might be involved in these incidents. We'll look to provide further information.
Right, thank you very much. Councillor Rennie.
Yep, just on the assurance and responsive governance failure aspect. Obviously, we've often had situations of limited assurance, and I noted there that there was the discussion about training being an ongoing priority. And I just wondered if there was any possibility maybe of having a kind of briefing session on internal audit for all elected members. I know it's something that regularly comes up to audit and scrutiny, but I just wondered if that's something. Obviously we're all responsible as councillors to ensure good governance within the council, and obviously there are a number of internal audit actions that are ongoing at any time, some of them going way back for quite a few years. And I just wondered if a briefing or session or training session or something imminently would be quite useful to all elected members on the internal audit service.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rennie. Yeah, I'm happy to look at that in the new year in terms of a briefing session or even a training session.
Thank you.
Okay,
If I can come in on that point as well.
Yeah.
It is something, Councillor Rennie, that we are looking as part of the elected member training plans. So one of the sessions we do have for the new year that we're looking at with Lee is a joint session around governance, internal audit, which would be elected members alongside colleagues from the Senior Leadership Forum and the Team Leaders Forum. So yeah, we'll look to roll that out.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Final question is on education and possibly takes in legal as well. There has recently been a default on our primary and early learning state resulting in a near miss and an incident. Is there any contingent liability being considered here?
I'll come in on it and attempt to answer it. So where we're at is, yes, there was 2 incidents regarding the fabric of the building, and our current team, what they have is they do inspections in our school and physically see where there's needing work to be done. And that's not been picked up on the current strategy we had in place from the Police Directorate. So they've not been able to pick that up, and they wouldn't have with the current arrangement. So they've changed the arrangement for checking the quality and the conditions of the schools. They've now checked every school for that in-depth detail, and it was in between the roofing from one of them. There was a leak, but they would never have picked up from the drones that they put up. But they've now inspected them in further detail. So we're now more confident that every school, we understand the condition way better. But we've still got work to do to make sure that anything actions from that is addressed. The 2 areas that you've mentioned were addressed immediately by that team, and repairs were made. So we weren't aware of them before. They were fixed there. We'd worked with all the families regarding the incident that children were witness to it, and we've not seen anything come back as such from that since our engagement with these families.
Right, I mean, that was the nub of my question. Is there something simmering in the background that we might have to deal with legally? Not as far as we know.
At the moment, I've received nothing in terms of legal, but that's not to say that something doesn't appear, over the coming months. But at the moment, no.
Okay. Are we making any preparation to defend that if anything does happen?
Not at the moment, no. There's a numerous amounts of things that we're starting to stray into kind of the legal bit. So I'm happy to have a conversation offline with you around that.
Not looking for any individual details. I just wondered if it was something we were considering might come down the line.
If it does, be prepared.
You'd be prepared for it. Thank you very much. That's fine. Any further questions? No. Thank you very much. Well, I will again formally propose the paper and ask if members wish to debate. No. Oh, a secondary, yes, and a second. Councillor Fair. Yes, I'll ask now my question about debate. I don't think it was debate. Are we happy to approve? Yeah, thank you. Move on. Item 7, internal audit actions progress report. And this will be given to us by Tom.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee. This report invites the committee to note, comment on and challenge the progress of internal audit actions. Appendix 1 provides a summary of ongoing progress, with Appendix 2 offering a fuller overview of the progress against the recommendations arising from the internal audit reports. As can be seen in Appendix 1, 327 actions were highlighted from various internal audit reports, of which 248, or 76%, have been completed. Efforts continue to be made to ensure that all agreed internal audit recommendations are implemented in a timely manner. However, as outlined to committee previously, we do acknowledge that increasing service demands and resource constraints continue to impact officers' ability to meet the agreed timelines. To maintain momentum, there continues to be a focus across our directorates on ensuring progress. The completion of audit actions remains a standing agenda item at the Strategic Leadership Group and the Directorate Senior Management Team meetings. Further update reports will be brought to the committee in due course. Chair, officers from other directorates and I are happy to take any specific questions in advance of the paper being moved.
Right. Any questions on paper? Well, I've got one, I think. On 3.3, it says directors are also asked to ensure that they are considered at the senior management team meetings. Having asked them, has that been, have they taken up the ask and fulfilled the obligation?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. I can confirm that all the directors have confirmed that this is a standing item on their agenda, and I can confirm it's also a standing item on the SLG agenda. So, yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Rennie.
Yeah, just on, when I looked at the different years of the reports and then, you know, so basically the timelines, it appeared as if that we were being a bit reactive in terms of things that were happening in more recent years were being dealt with, and there were more progress on them than there were in some of the aspects back in previous years, like for example, sundry debtors, which was still only 33% complete. And I just wondered why that was, why we seem to be reacting more to the, and it may be that just things are coming up and they're high priority, but I'm wondering if it stops us being more proactive and we're being more reactive.
Would agree. It may appear that there are a number of actions from previous years. Until laterally, there were no graded recommendations. So we'll see in the newer reports that have come up over the last few years, we have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. And some of the older reports didn't have such a sort of scoring system, but an indication of the risk or level of risk. So we are focusing where we can our attention on the grade 1 and the grade 2 risks, where the greatest risk is going to be associated. And so, for example, in the sundry debtors one, I think it's about making sure procedures are written down. There will be procedures, they may not be written down, so the risk of that is maybe not as high as a grade 1 risk. So I think there's an opportunity or a need for us to engage with internal audit to review some of these older actions and look potentially at closing them off because we don't consider them a significant risk, and there are measures in place that are already dealing with some of those, and we can close them off. But the point is well made, Councillor Rennie.
No, I think you're right, Chris. I think, you know, why do we still have them sitting? Because it doesn't look like we're managing our governance so well when we've got something outstanding for years. But like, you're absolutely right. If it's not something that's relevant now, we shouldn't be having it there, I don't think. Sorry, I'm making a point rather than a question. Is that correct?
Thank you. Any other questions? I was just looking at some of the ones that had low scores in terms of the percentage we are through the year and the percentage of the achievements, picking out a couple of them. Adult social care purchase order arrangements, it's a score of 39%, which is quite low in what I thought was a fairly important financial exercise. Is that, have I got the priority in my head wrong on this one?
No, Chair, I think there were a number of grade 1, grade 2 recommendations in that report. I'm not sure if we have any HSCP. Wendy is maybe able to address that point.
Wendy Forrest, Head of Strategic Planning and Health Improvement. If I can offer the Interim Chief Officer's apologies, she's at Stirling Council presenting as the committee's run on the same day.
How dare she?
So I wonder if you could just repeat the question in terms of what you're seeking.
It's just that we're reporting 3/4 of the way through the year. So you were looking for an achievement rate of about 75%. It's 39%. I just wondered, this was something which there was quite a bit of fuss made about earlier meeting, and I just wondered why it seemed to be lacking attention. Maybe it isn't, but that's how it appears.
I think in terms of where we are in adult social care, you'll be aware that we've got a number of vacancies. We've only recently appointed a locality manager into Clackmannanshire. We have an interim head of service. Our permanent head of service will start in January. So I would hope with the focus of that dedicated leadership within Clackmannanshire that we would be able to address some of the issues laid out. So I would hope at the next quarter we would be seeing an improvement in those figures.
Okay, thanks.
I can also maybe add there's been a follow-up audit by internal audit colleagues. The level of assurance remains low, but I know that the new interim chief officer and the previous chief officer have addressed the recommendations and have submitted a report back in relation to the actions they're going to take forward.
Good, thank you. IT information and security governance. Now, this is, we hear a lot about hacking and slashing and phishing and all the rest of it. 37%. Why is IT governance not higher up the pecking order?
So a number of the IT actions relate to our ongoing reaccreditation of PSN, which is the public sector network. We're doing a lot of work around achieving our reaccreditation, including work that is noted in the actions an ITT out to tender to resolve a number of the outstanding actions. Once that work is completed, which we hope to be in early in the new year, that's going to show a lot of those actions completed. So a number of those actions are related to that work being completed, which is a network segmentation. It's quite a technical piece of work.
So of the 9 outstanding actions, you would expect most of those to be resolved by the end of the year?
We still have work to do around refreshing training, but we've done quite a lot around employee cascades and briefings. We do regular updates for our staff. We've got information on a training package on the Clerks Academy e-learning platform. However, I think we would still want to refresh, but the majority of the actions will be moved significantly on once we've got our PSN reaccreditation.
Thank you. Any further questions? Again, I will formally propose the paper. Seconder. Councillor Beck, thank you. Right, do we wish to debate the paper? We do not. Are we happy to approve the paper? We are. Good, thank you. Moving on. 8. Manager of Stirling Integration Joint Board Annual Performance Report. Given by Wendy. Again, hello.
Lindsay Forrest, Head of Strategic Planning and Health Improvement, the Health and Social Care Partnership. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this report this morning to members. This relates to the statutory requirement of having an annual performance report presented through the Integration Joint Board. The strategic commissioning plan implementation sits within this annual performance report. The annual performance report is required through the Integration Joint Board to satisfy the assurance that they are undertaking their role and tasks. The strategic planning group has the operational oversight of ensuring that the Integration Joint Board delivers against the strategic plan, and this is the document which assures the Integration Joint Board that we have that in place. The paper this morning is presented for noting, but I'm very happy to take questions around the performance. You will see that the performance relates to the strategic priorities as laid out within the plan, and we are currently undertaking a review of that plan as we are 3 years into it, and we've arranged an elected members briefing for the 18th of December for Clackmannanshire Council on this and another topic which was requested. So I'm happy to take questions about the annual performance report. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Looks like we don't. I have one question, Wendy, which is a silly one in a way. If you look on pages 96 and 97, there are 4 of your bullet points which are identical. 3.2, 3.5. For all sense, I think before the paper was public, we should get that tidied up.
My sincere apologies, convener. In our rush to work across 4 templates for the different governance bodies, we have been over enthusiastic in our cutting and pasting. I will make those amendments. Apologies.
Very good. Well, if there are no questions, Councillor Porson.
Sorry. As part of the strategic commissioning plan, one of our aims is achieving care closer to home and transforming services to ensure that people can, I suppose, remain at home, receive care in their home, etc. And moving that forward as an aim, are we taking into account that sometimes it might just not be the right thing for people to be within their own homes? And are we making sure that we look at individual circumstances rather than trying to apply a blanket approach? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Forson. Absolutely, I think your point is absolutely well made. And if we consider that we will have national services that people would be using, we would have regional in terms of Forth Valley Health Board and also commission services across Lanarkshire, the Lothians and Greater Glasgow and Clyde. You're absolutely right. Every person has a right to an assessment, and they have a right to assessment whether they are carers under the Carers Act, and they have a right to an assessment under the 1968 Social Work Act, as well as the Self-Directed Support Act. We would absolutely consider that assessment and the review following that assessment after a year as an absolutely core part of our custom and practice. You are aware that we are doing an asset-based assessment, and we're rolling that out through our multidisciplinary team working, and we're also rolling it out through our mental health services for patients currently sitting in Lochview that we are hoping to bring back to a homely setting within the communities that they previously lived. I'm happy for us to have a different conversation out with this about what you would hope that would look like. But please be assured we are trying to modernise those services so that they are absolutely person-centred. And if I can be cheeky and offer that the Care at Home review team have currently saved nearly 5,000 hours in terms of people's care and support within the community, because the assessed need was an overprescription. We free up then over £700,000 to be used in our communities for care and support. Thank you.
That's great, and the figures around that are all really good and really positive. I suppose my concern and what I'm seeking a bit more assurance on is, as we're reviewing assets and we're making changes to the services based on the assumption that more people will be cared for at home, etc., are we sure that we're going to have the capacity remaining within our assets, that should that not be the right choice or right decision for an individual, that will be able to accommodate that?
Yeah, I think that's a really valid challenge, and I think you're absolutely right. We need to be considering the totality of building-based support, community-based support, and also hospital-based support if we think about Community Health and Care Centre within Alloa, and we need to use all of our assets in the most meaningful way for people who require care and support.
And I suppose just following up on that, changes to kind of assets and services that are available in the community that have been there maybe for a long time or are really, really ingrained, it can be difficult for the public to, I suppose, move on from that. Are we doing all we can to engage with kind of all members of the public, and do we have, I suppose, appropriate communication plans in place, or will we develop them to ensure that as much information is provided at the right time?
Thanks, Councillor Forson. We are working with our comms leads across the three organisations. You're absolutely right. These are very difficult decisions which are based on need and demand, and also the financial envelope that's available. So they are really difficult decisions, and the Integration Joint Board has that responsibility to commission the right care at the right time. We would absolutely work hard to ensure that people have as much information about this as they possibly can, and that we take a range of voices from people across our communities, which is, at your request, we have the elected members briefing, which we would really hope that members were able to attend so that we could talk some of this through as well, because these are really difficult decisions, and I know the pressures within Cod Manager on a whole range of these asset-based services are really challenging.
Okay. Okay. There being no more questions, I'm happy to propose the paper. We have a seconder. Councillor Forson.
And seconding it, yeah, just it's a good paper, and it does really outline a lot of the work that's going on over the Health and Social Care Partnership. I am assured that the briefings have now been set up, and hopefully there's a bit more of an ongoing dialogue so that elected members at the council can have a bit more say and influence, but also hear a lot more about the plans that are going ahead. So, yeah, happy to see the report there, and thanks, Wendy.
Good. Right, do we wish to debate the paper? Nope. Fine, we have to move. We are, right. Item 10. Contract manager locality performance report.
Surprise. Thank you, Wendy Forrest, Head of Strategic Planning and Health Improvement for the Health and Social Care Partnership. This paper relates to the locality performance report and is a much more detailed around Clackmannanshire than the previous report that you noted. This relates to the specifics of how we are delivering against the strategic planning priorities and also against the needs and demands across Clackmannanshire. As I've said previously, there's particular things that members would wish to see. I'm very happy to include those. As I said previously, we now have a locality manager in place permanently in Clackmannanshire, and we have a new head of community health and care starting in early mid-January to undertake that leadership role across. I would also like to note that we also have our delivery plan, which sits alongside this, which is a programme of change and transformation across the Health and Social Care Partnership. And I wonder if in the future members would wish a briefing around that delivery plan, because it relates to some of the questions that Councillor Forson had previously asked. It's a significant piece of work that's been ongoing for the last year and will continue for the next 3 years as our delivery plan. Members from Clackmannanshire Council who sit on the Integration Joint Board will see regular updates in terms of that delivery plan, but I'm happy if it would be helpful into the new year if there was a request for a briefing on that delivery plan.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be.
Thank you.
Any questions for Wendy? Councillor Rennie.
Yeah, sorry, it's just a bit for a point of clarification, Wendy, and it's maybe been explained before, but when we're getting the 2024-25 comparison figures, are they for the same period, like for Q1 and Q2, or for the whole year?
Thank you, Councillor Rennie. They'll just be for this quarter, so we don't have them for the whole year. You're just seeing them in relation to the quarter that's being presented today.
I mean the comparison figures, the 24-25 figures, where we're looking at 25-26, are the comparators for the same period?
Sorry, can you tell me what page you're on, please? Apologies.
Oh, sorry, Wendy, I should have said. So page 151.
And you're asking, my apologies, for whether the 25-26 comparatives and the 24-25 are for the quarter or for the whole year. My apologies. I would need to go and check.
No, sorry, I didn't manage the pre-meeting, so should have probably asked you before. It was just because obviously that makes a difference in terms of, because I was looking at the number of emergency detention certificates, section 36 and section 44. So it would make a difference as to whether they were looking higher or lower, because if it was the whole year, obviously they're looking substantially higher, but like if you were looking at a comparison for the period, they're looking substantially lower. So my question would be different depending on that. Sorry, again, that's not really a question, but just it would be useful to get an update on that if possible, so that I could see if there were any relevant questions on those specific areas.
Yeah, very happy to do that, Councillor. Any apologies? I should have that in my fingertips today, and I don't. Apologies.
No, it's not your fault. It's entirely mine. I should have asked before. Sorry.
Yeah, I suppose really it's just an indication of whether obviously it's a year-to-date figure for the current period, but is it the same period last year or the whole year? That's simple clarification. Good. Councillor Forson.
Thanks again, Wendy. You might not have the answer to this. We are obviously working in partnership with the health board to get the throughput of people coming out of hospital and increase the, I suppose, improve on the delayed discharge situation. There was a freeing up of funding across Scotland of about £20 million, and I think that's intended from the health boards to go through to the health and social care partnerships to help support that work. Has the kind of Stirling and Clackmannanshire partnership received this fund, and if so, do you know how much it is, and where is that going to be focused to kind of improve the results?
Thank you, Councillor Forson, and you offer me the opportunity to say that for Clackmannanshire and Stirling, we have 2 people delayed in Forth Valley today. So our numbers for delayed discharges or people delayed in hospital are really very good and have continued to be good for a number of years. In terms of the funding, we've got £400,000 worth of funding, and we're upstreaming it, as we would say, within an NHS context, which is about that prevention and early intervention, and also looking at how we can provide services out of hours, in inverted commas, to support people out with what would be considered office hours, to ensure that people are supported at home to avoid that admission. So we've taken it back to an avoidance rather than a managing of delays, because we don't have that issue particularly.
Okay, no further questions. Right, again, I will formally propose the paper. Do I have a seconder? That's a portal.
Yeah, again, happy to second, and just to say it's good to hear that our delayed discharge levels are particularly low. I was in a meeting with the Cabinet Secretary for Health, and he was really putting, I suppose, a bit of bonus on local authorities and health and social care partnerships to do what they can. So I'll be pleased to report that back. And I'm really pleased to hear that the money we've received is being spent on the early intervention and prevention, because we all know that, I suppose, that's what delivers the results in the long term. But thanks.
All right, okay. Do I need to announce that? Fine, okay. I have paper is seconded. Do we wish to debate the paper? No, we don't. Right, Dan.
Thank you.
Are we happy to approve? Yeah, a chorus of assent there. Right, number 10. This is the management information, voluntary severance, early retirement, and flexible retirement packages to be delivered by Mr. Hare.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members of committee. The paper presented to you for noting this morning provides an overview of the number of early retirement, flexible retirement and voluntary severance requests approved during the previous financial year. This follows a request from committee in October 2025 for scrutiny of payments and associated savings regarding the use of these employment instruments, following the widely reported payments with regards to early retirement and severance at Glasgow City Council. For context, Clackmannanshire Council has a robust policy basis for the management of retirement and severance. All requests are managed under either the flexible retirement policy or the local government pension scheme employer's discretionary functions policy. These are applied consistently to staff regardless of grade or level. Figures outlining the costs of these employment instruments within the previous financial year are provided at section 3.15 and associated savings at section 3.17 of the report. Members may wish to note that over the course of the previous financial year, when comparing costs to savings, a total of £37,182.55 has been saved utilising these instruments and the policies which underpin them. I am happy to answer any questions you might have on the paper.
I did ask an earlier question in the pipeline about the compensatory added years. I think I've had an answer to it, but it might be as well to have it made public. The question was, is that legislation still active? Because I had read that it was stopped in October 2006. That may be inaccurate. AI is not always my best friend, but perhaps you could clarify that for me.
As I say, AI is not always to be trusted on that one. Yes, we have actually looked into the legality of that, so thank you for the question, Chair. And compensatory added years are covered under the Local Pension Scheme Regulations 2018.
Excellent, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Rennie.
Yeah, just for a point of clarification on the tables that you've given on the voluntary severance costs and then the savings. I'm presuming that the costs are a one-off, but the savings are long-term, that they'll be repeated year on year?
That's correct, Councillor Rennie.
Okay, thank you. So that's quite a big saving then when you add that up. Yeah.
Any further questions? Don't think so. Thank you, Alistair. Right, we'll then once again formally propose the paper for a seconder. Fairly, thank you very much. Do we wish to debate the paper? We do not, and we'll be happy to approve. We are. Thank you very much. Item 11, absence compliance data. Once again, over to you, Alistair.
Thank you, Chair. This paper provides the committee with an update on the maximising attendance and wellbeing action plan and provides commentary on the work currently being undertaken via the absence compliance officer post. By way of context, the maximising attendance and wellbeing action plan was originally created in 2019 and was updated in 2023. A copy of this action plan and progress to date is included at Appendix 1 of the report. Of the 15 actions undertaken, 14 are noted as complete, with the remaining action being outstanding due to the revocation of the Healthy Working Life standard by the NHS. Although I should note that our Healthy Working Lives group continues to use the framework as a benchmark for good practice, despite the informal accreditation process no longer being available. Members should also note that the now completed action plan has been replaced by the Health, Safety and Wellbeing Strategy, aiming to provide continuity in how the Council addresses and develops its approach to the wellbeing and safety of staff, and that was approved at Council last week. Also noted in the paper is an update on the absence compliance officer post, which is a 2-year fixed-term post aimed at promoting compliance and improving our culture around absence management. The post, in its first year, has had a dual focus, looking at the implementation and compliance with our absence management policies and procedures, and secondly, with upskilling of managers via training, tailored support and engagement activities. The work undertaken via this post is diverse in nature, which we have demonstrated through the inclusion of an example update, which is usually provided to the Council's HR and Workforce Development team, which is attached to the report at Appendix 2. This update represents the first of 2 updates with regards to this post, with the aim being that in 2026 we will be able to provide more qualitative and quantitative evidence as to the effectiveness of the post over the 2-year term. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rennie.
Yeah, thanks. It's really good to see this and see the level of policies that are being brought in, particularly for staff wellbeing. I just wondered if on the back of those policies, often a policy goes into place and it's there, but is there training for managers on implementation of those policies as well when they're working with their teams?
Thanks for that question, Councillor Rennie. Yes, we do have toolbox talks are associated with those policies. But when any policy is approved, we also go through a communication process with that to ensure that staff and managers are aware of its implementation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. I think so. Thanks, Alistair. Right, again, I will formally propose the paper. I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor Forson, thanks very much. Do we wish to debate the paper? No. Thank you. Are we happy to approve? Yes, we are. Thanks, Alistair. Moving on. Item 12 on the agenda, the Public Bodies Climate Change Report. I'm not going to read all that out. It's been delivered to us by Lawrence.
Morning, folks.
Morning.
Morning. Bring to you today the internal audit report. That's the purpose of.
Could you put your mic on, Lawrence, please? Thanks. Yeah.
All right. Can everyone hear me now? So the purpose of this report is to present the findings of the internal audit's review of the Council's Public Body Climate Change Duties Report. This particular report is a statutory duty of the Council. I would like that you note within here that the content. I'd like to note the contents of the internal audit report and the positive steps that have been taken by services to make inroads in their net zero emission targets. It should be noted that the Council has addressed the recommendations that were held in the 23-24 report, which were associated with delivering a timetable for the delivery of this year's report, which was delivered on time, which was October the 1st. It was to include waste emission figures. There was clarity that was required when the emission figures were actually produced. The challenge with emission figures is we don't get them until October, so trying to provide them before that date makes it a little bit challenging, but it's been explained to internal audit the reason for that. We've also been asked to investigate methods of recording carbon emissions reductions, which is a major challenge for all local authorities. There's a lot of tools that have been put out there now. They require a lot of resources, a lot of people out there looking for a lot of money to try and get that golden key that will cut across all services. But we are working with the Scottish Government, who are developing a very useful tool, and it's hoped over the next year that we'll be able to introduce that into services and to make it easier for all the services to actually know the savings that have been made. Within the report, I'd like you to note that we've been given substantial assurance by internal audit on this particular report. And I'd also like you to note that I'd like you to endorse the recommendations that we aim to ensure that all carbon reduction projects include estimated or actual carbon savings. And also that we will be reviewing and updating documents and reports, specific reports that we've been asked to look at. The local transport strategy, council travel plan, fleet strategy, the fleet asset management plan, the local development plan, housing strategy, procurement strategy. These policies are, at this point in time, being reviewed by the services. There are updates. I can name but a few. The housing strategy, the housing need and demand assessment will be presented to council in January, which is the forerunner of the local housing strategy. So there is movement that's been made, and I'm aware of also movement within transport and fleet, and then developing policies will be presented to council early next year. I would also like to note some of the actual improvements that have been made within the council. Particularly very proud to note that we as a council have now been seen as the council with the best recycling rates in Scotland, which is a big plus. Within our own energy and sustainability team, we're making substantial inroads to helping the private sector to reduce emissions. We punch well above our weight. We pull in substantial amounts of money to the council, bringing investment into improving the energy and helping to tackle fuel poverty within Clackmannan and Shire. These are only the two of good things that I'm doing and we're continuing to do as a council for the people of Clackmannan and Shire. Any questions?
Thank you, Lawrence. Any questions for Lawrence? Councillor Forson?
Lawrence, if you can pick your time.
Sorry.
Thanks, Lawrence, and thanks for highlighting the recycling rates. It was good to see Clackmannanshire back up there at the top. What factors do you think have contributed to that?
I've spoken to Ian McDonald, who's not here today, but a lot of that is about...
Mike again.
Sorry. It's about education, it's about the recycling. It's about the education, it's about the partnerships that they've developed with other local authorities, and actually the staff themselves moving forward and developing strategies that actually improve how we recycle, and whether that be the recycling of the bins that have been introduced. These seem like simple things, but making a big difference in Clackmannanshire.
So the introduction of the kind of new bins, like the cardboard recycling and the different schedules of that's had a direct impact on recycling rates.
There's no doubt that that's contributed towards it.
Lawrence, it says in the paper somewhere that the Scottish Government expects that Clackmannanshire Council, all the councils, will play a leading role in spreading the message into the community and the economy locally. What impact do you think you, like Claremanagh, has had on the local community, local environment?
I think the major impact, one of the major impacts, I spoke about the energy and sustainability section, that impact of actually making homes more energy efficient. At a time where we're tackling fuel poverty, at a time where we're rising fuel bills, and people are still struggling. So it's helping the community, it's bringing investment in, it's making homes cheaper and more energy efficient in the district and make it better for the people at Claremanagh. It has been a big difference. We have seen a tremendous difference in the education that we take out to there. We go out to community groups, we inform the community groups, we go out to schools, we've got programmes and surgeries across Clarks that are spreading that word, and it is making a difference. We have seen from advocacy rates that we're doing it, we've saved over the past year 3,665 carbon tonnes, and that's no mean feat, and we continue to do so. To date, the amount of carbon savings that we've made on this year's programme is 52.5. That's just on the homes. That doesn't include the advocacy savings that have been made. So it's having a huge impact on the lives of the people in Claremanagh and making big improvements to them.
Is it part of your brief to appeal to businesses in the area to, so okay, you can keep it on financial minds overriding. Are you having an impact on businesses' response in the area?
Interestingly enough, a big project that I'm working on at the moment is the development of a potential heat network. I'm working with Zero Waste Scotland and have been provided money from the government to look at a feasibility study for a heat network within Alba. I've been in contact with several key agencies in here, OI, Chris Moll, Scottish Water, and we're looking at other alternative ways moving forward. We're setting that heat network, and there is an interest. I was actually approached by OI to ask me, would you be interested in all that lovely heat that escapes into the air? Scottish Water equally, all that wastewater that's down there that's been recycled at Fort Bank, all the heat that comes out of that. And Chris Moll, which was an interesting one to me, didn't understand that process, but there's a tremendous amount of heat that's actually used in that process that's escaping. And they're the newest ones to the table, and they're very interested to see how we can move that forward. We're looking at it occurring in phases. We would look at these anchor loads that are there, and it would happen over a period of several years. It would include potentially anchor loads such as ourselves at Kilncraigs, our Alloa Academy, the primary school, the nursery in the area. The report will be completed by March the 31st. I had a discussion yesterday with my colleagues who are developing this, and they are moving substantially quickly on this. I have a presentation that's scheduled for this week, for next week's Climate Emergency Board meeting from Net Zero Scotland, who's going to come along and tell us about the progress. It's very exciting, and it provides big opportunities, because with that brings jobs, it brings energy efficiency, it brings savings to the public and to the businesses around here, and we could be seen as one of the first in developing this.
Claremanagh, once again, one of the first. Excellent, well done, thanks, Lawrence. Any further questions? Councillor Fortner, do you want to? No. Oh, just one. Okay, in that case, I'll formally propose the paper and looking for a seconder. Councillor Fortner.
I will second it, and I'll just mutter a wee bit more loudly. I think it's a really good paper, Lawrence. It sometimes can seem a bit subjective, all the work that the council's doing towards net zero targets, and it's not really tangible. So I think some of the areas that you've outlined there are particularly tangible, and they maybe make it a bit more real to people. I think we need to do something about this comms-wise to let I think the public know that a lot of this work's going on. It's really good that we're back at the top of the recycling rates again. And the work that's going on around about the heat networks is so innovative, but nobody knows that all this work's been done. And I think that's a bit of a shame, because the team are putting an awful lot of effort into it to make things better for communities around about Clipmanager, but particularly the heat network in Alloa, could really help to pull off something quite special in relation to heat poverty or fuel poverty. So hopefully after the climate board next week, we can maybe get something developed just to let people know that this work's going on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good, thank you. Just to follow up on Councillor Forson, at the CEB, I'm going to be proposing meetings with the forums that we had run in developing the climate change, because like yourself, Councillor Forson, I feel that we don't get the message out enough. So opening the forums back up and running them and informing them, because there's a lot of good work that the council's doing, and I agree with you, we're not so good at actually getting the message out. So that would be a proposal to take that forward, and also an early newsletter informing of these positive aspects that are going ahead.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Right, we have paused, we've seconded. We haven't debated yet. Do we wish to debate the paper? No. Do we wish to approve the paper? Very much so. Right, thank you. Okay, item 13, partnership performance, half-year business plan update.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning once again, committee members. So the paper presented asks the committee to note, comment and challenge the half-year update on the 25-26 Partnership and Performance Business Plan. The Partnership and Performance Directorate continues to play a pivotal role in enabling the Council to deliver high-quality services, ensure robust governance and achieve its corporate priorities. The 25-26 business plan set out a clear and ambitious programme of work aligned to the Council's Be the Future vision and transformation roadmap. The update presented reflects progress as of the 30th of September this year and outlines key achievements, risks and areas for improvement aligned to the Council's Be the Future transformation programme. The cover report provides an overview of achievements, and the accompanying appendices provides updates against KPIs, approved actions and risks. The achievements that the portfolio has delivered to date are testament to the flexibility, expertise, experience and resilience of our many dedicated staff, and senior managers from across the P&P Directorate and myself are happy to take any questions committee members may have.
Thank you. Members have any questions? Because I have one or two. Little thing. This is on page 210. The Gaelic language plan for Clipmanager. What are the objectives of that primarily, and how costly is it?
So the Gaelic language plan is a statutory requirement for the council to prepare a plan. The plan, which is currently under preparation, seeks to set out how the council is helping to deliver the national strategy for Gaelic language, but also how it is encouraging the development and education and use of Gaelic in Scotland. In terms of costs, we get a small grant which comes to the settlement, as I understand, which covers some of the costs. There is no additional budget for developing the plan or for implementing the plan. The budget is currently used for transporting a small number of pupils who attend Gaelic education and study.
Okay, thank you for that. That's good to know. There's no additional cost coming from it. Corporate communications and marketing strategy in progress. Now, we had a consultation exercise some time ago, which was quite lively, and the one I attended. And I'm just wondering if there's any outcome yet from that.
Yes, so that work has been ongoing since the summer. The latest update is we're anticipating the first draft of that report before Christmas. So that will be reporting imminently, that work.
Indeed, because I mean, picking up on the points that were made in the last paper about communications, it's something we need to look at very hard. And there's work to be done there. Okay, I think that's another one. Yeah. Page 213.
the percentage of the high, this is the KPI, the percentage of the highest paid 5% of earners among council employees that are women. This is a favourite of mine. Are we subject to quotas on that? Do we have to meet a certain figure?
No.
Okay. Fine. What is the objective of the exercise?
Quality.
Quality. Quality is independent of gender, sex.
So this is a national figure included in the local government benchmarking framework. It's one that we include as part of our efforts to have a equality balance across our roles in the council in terms of.
Right. So we're doing it because we have to, not because we want to. Right.
I think we're doing it because it's the right thing to do, but it is included. It is a national indicator.
We could debate on it, but I'm afraid that's that one. Yeah, page 223 now. The review of the council's policy and strategic. What's a strategic landscape in this context? What continues to be taken forward to review and streamline the council's policy and strategic landscape?
So the strategic landscape essentially means the hundreds of strategies that the council has at the moment in terms of mapping where they are at and ensuring that they are consistent and included in the types of policy reference that we would expect them to do, and that they also demonstrate links with the council's strategic outcomes and priorities that are set by the council.
Thanks, Sheree, that's fine. And on the same page, the new staff intranet, in line with the council's digital transformation aspirations. What the SharePoint functionality that's coming in? What are the benefits of that? The main differences with the current system.
The main benefits are that the SharePoint site won't be hosted via Citrix ultimately, so staff that have current issues with accessing Citrix will no longer have to do that. So it's hosted on Microsoft 365. Also visually, it's much more visually appealing tool, and the functionality is much easier as well. And it's also easier for services to update themselves.
Excellent. Good. You want Councillor Force?
I've got a question on page 212. The cost of collecting council tax per dwelling. It's gone up since 2021, and we're not got the figure reported yet for this year. Are we expecting that trend to continue to increase? And I suppose, what are the reasons that it's gone up? I don't know what the reasons could be, but it would be good to hear that. And are we expecting the ability for people to, kind of receive their bills online and digitally to help reduce that cost?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we are expecting that cost to go up continually year on year through inflationary aspects. So what predominantly makes up that cost is staff, because it's staff time. So we have the pay award inflation as that increases each year, so that increases the costs. We also have system costs, that's the other cost in there. And you've already mentioned postage costs. So we've implemented e-billing, so just this year. So residents will be able to get their bills electronically rather than through the post, so that will save on that postage. But that is just a small portion of the amount that goes to that. And that's measured against the number of houses we have in the area. So that does not increase as the costs of the staff and the other costs increase.
Obviously, we're looking at collaboration work with other kind of councils. For me, this would seem like an area that would make sense to work with other areas and potentially reduce costs. Is that something that we're considering looking at?
Thank you. Yes. So in the collaboration report that was recently approved by Council, revenues and benefits was one of the areas that's identified. There are a number of similarities because it's very process-driven legislative requirements are the same across most councils, although there are local nuances that make them unique. So it is on the list, so we're looking to see if we can make any savings in sharing costs in that way.
On the point of view of collection costs, presumably, though they're going up in terms of inflation, etc., and staff wages, which is all inflation, so is the council tax going up. So as a percentage of the total billing, is it remaining fairly steady?
I would have to go and check that to see if we could work that out. I think we'd looked at that in the past and it's quite challenging to show that comparative.
But if you know the figure per household, just multiply that number of households and divide it by the total bill.
I can certainly have another look at it and see if it's something we'd be able to incorporate.
No, I was just wondering what the trend line was, whether it was a process that's getting more expensive proportionately or not. Thanks. Page 225, it says at the bottom that the Alliance Board meeting in September, a development workshop was agreed, which is scheduled for November. Just wondering if that happened and did it achieve its goals?
Yes, the event took place in November, supported by the Columba 1400 team, and yes, I think it achieved its goals, which was to agree a number of priorities through engagement with partners, and there's a commitment to report back on those priorities and short-term work that was established at that group.
Thanks, Sherry. Yeah, I'm just, again, in the risk register in 227, just looks back to the community strategy, sorry, the community engagement, which takes in all the communications that we've had. Now, we've had issues recently where when we announced the council tax rise last year, the leader took a lot of impacts on social media. So did the CEO when her salary increases. But we need to get ahead of the game on these, I feel. I'll have to phrase this as a question. All right, we need to get ahead of the game and get our information out into social media before the doomsayers get their knives out. So, do you agree that is something we should be treating as important?
Social media is certainly a key channel for the council, and it's a key part of the work that the Clark Communication, the consultants in terms of the strategy, have been looking at. Social media is always difficult to manage, particularly as we cannot control what people may put on their own social media. We can control what goes on our social media, and we can control what comments are made on the council's social media channels. But it's certainly an area for focus, and I think we've certainly seen, since we last developed social media strategy, we've certainly seen the use of social media being huge in terms of, what we're putting out on our social media channels. We've got numerous channels, the main corporate one, but also numerous service ones, but also the engagement we're seeing coming back on that. So, yeah, it's definitely an area for focus. We have committed to a social media policy coming back, and I think you're quite right, that needs to also look at what protections that we can, put in place for our staff and elected members.
But do you agree that the best protection is to get the truth out there first before anyone has read the story and misinterpreted it?
I mean, we would always seek to put the truth out in communications. I do think, being proactive on that is the best policy, the best strategy. Not everybody is going to like what they read, so there is an element of how we engage with that and how we control maybe some more of the very difficult social media content that we get. We do employ a member of staff whose job is predominantly made up of policing social media comments, so we have filters and we do ban and control people on social media every single day. So it's definitely a reflection of social media in society, reflects what we as a council, as an organisation, are dealing with in terms of what people feel they can and can't say, or what they do and can say on social media. So we do take proactive steps to reduce the worst of the comments that are coming to us on social media. And actually, just if I can touch back on the violence and aggression piece, our staff also get, our staff that are managing social media, main corporate channel, also get quite a bit of violence and aggression, so that is recorded in some of the stats that were reported earlier.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Rennie.
Yeah, just on that, it's something I feel quite strongly about. Quite a few of the comments that are on there, or a number of the comments that are on there, are probably sailing close to being defamatory. And I just wondered whether there are defamatory comments, whether there's follow-up taken, because that, or if there's ever any statement put out to say that if defamatory comments were put on about people who require protection, that would be followed up strongly by the council to protect those individuals.
We certainly put out warnings to users of social media, as I say, in terms of their behaviour. We've got policies in place around behaviour which reflects our social media channels as well. And we have reported users to Police Scotland on numerous occasions for highly offensive language that has been targeted on our corporate social media channel. But I'm certainly happy to pick up on the kind of defamation. I'm not quite sure how that would work, but I can certainly have conversations with our legal team on how that might work on as a council, as an organisation, rather than an individual person. But we certainly have reported instances which have been investigated to the police previously.
Okay, thanks. Any further questions? No. In case I will formally propose the paper. The seconder, Councillor Forth, thank you very much. Do we wish to debate the paper? No. And do we use the paper? We do. Thank you very much. That concludes formal business of today's Audit Scrutiny Committee meeting. I would like to thank both the members and the officers for their contributions and engagement throughout the season and the session. The committee will recall that we agreed as part of our 2024 annual report